The main reason I'm here to talk about this space is, one, I come from the gambling industry back when it was WMS, before Scientific Games bought WMS. And for the last 7 years, I've spent working at Unity, world's leading game engine. But I spent 7 years bringing Unity to the gambling industry by licensing to the Bally's of the world, to the Scientific Games, the Shuffle Masters, et cetera, on the land-based side. So I spent most of my time on the land-based side bringing a video gaming technology over there, and now straddling both between real money gambling, social casino, and frankly, as we'll talk about, the world of instant messenger games. And quite frankly, for an audience in the casino world, I'm excited to just kind of tell people, take a look and see what's going on in instant games as well. I know that when I was in gambling, sometimes we can get a little, a little myopically focused on what we're doing in gambling and not peer enough across to say what's going on in the world of video gaming casual world. More specifically, what I want to talk about from an instant games, HTML5 technology, and slot game standpoint is kind of raise some questions. Unfortunately, I'm not like Adam and Todd and their presentation and all the research they do. They can really pinpoint, this is what's happening, and here are the trends, and give you some clear direction. I'm here more to have a conversation about, one, are we witnessing the beginning of a major shift in gaming? Specifically, is Facebook's new instant game platform going to be a major shift? Will it become a major gaming platform of the future? Will instant games replace or merely complement the app stores? There's also, I mean, to the extent there are devs in the room, there are probably reservations and questions about, is HTML5 a solid enough and mature enough technology to make good games? Three, I guess finally I'll say, what can video gaming learn from the gambling industry? Which it typically goes the other way. And in fact, I think I could comfortably say, typically, video gaming is viewed as the highest, but I think in this case, where you look at instant gaming platforms that are adopting HTML5 technology, gambling is way further down the path as far as how to leverage that technology and with respect to the type of content that's already out there. So with that as a background, I'll just dive in. First, what's all the hype about Messenger, right? And Messenger apps. The hype is 5 billion MAU all over the world. So Facebook alone, you'll see, just because I know Facebook better, being more American or US focused, is 1.2, 1.3 billion on Messenger. That's a huge opportunity. But if you look at WeChat, that's probably approaching 1 billion. And if you dig into what WeChat's doing, they're doing way more than just messenger apps. I mean, it's a whole nother world of how WeChat is being leveraged in China. Then you have Kakao Talk on the smaller side in South Korea, and bigger Line in Japan. So that's where it starts, is you got a bunch of people on Messenger, and how do you get to them? And games is a natural way to leverage that, right? Here's the biggest hook for a game in Messenger. It's instant play. We're having a conversation, and one of my friends on Facebook says, hey, play this game. Before it was like, oh, play this game. Then what I got to do is I got to go out to the App Store, get on my phone, go to the application, type in the name of the game, search it, and then I got to, oh, what's my password to get in? Let's say in this case, App Store, I'm thinking. That's a lot of steps. I know personally, I'm far less likely to do something that takes me 3 or 4 times versus a link. So the biggest excitement about this, it's immediate gameplay. Now, that also means you're probably just going to be playing a very simple game. There's also another major point I should say. This focus is also in the world of mobile, and there are going to be a couple other points where I'll sort of dovetail off of some of Adam's comments from the last session, is that shift to mobile. This Messenger is all about that mobile interaction, and for you to play that game straight away, you get right in a URL, which means a mobile browser. There's some technical challenges with that. I'll come back to that in a moment. So I'll just make a declaration. I'll show a couple examples in a moment. HTML graphics have come a long way. There are, again, reservations that, oh, can you make a good game? I know if you go native, you can do all kinds of things, 3D and really cool games, but is HTML5 reasonable enough technology to build a game in? And the answer is yes, and I'll show you. You'll see I say there's 30% rev share that you can avoid, and there's a question mark there. Because, yes, if you go with a mobile messenger game now on Facebook, there's no 30% toll, if you will, and the app stores have a 30% toll. But I cannot imagine that Facebook is building this entire platform and they're never going to monetize it for themselves. So there's not one now, and by the way, I'm sure there's probably someone at Facebook floating around who can probably address that better, but I'll put a question mark by that now. And then I'll say there's also the opportunity, particularly for casino-based companies who are building their games for their slot machines, physical slot machines, and they're also in RMG and social casino. There's an opportunity to now build that game, and I'll say specifically, if you're building in Unity, you could potentially build for all those platforms with a single code base. And anyone who, in the world of dev, loves the prospect of a single code base. Now, a few other considerations. When you talk about these messenger games, 2D only. 2D only primarily because you're using HTML5 2D Canvas, and if you're on a mobile platform, you, as a general matter, can't use WebGL. There are WebGL games you could run on the latest and greatest mobile devices, but most devices you just can't. So you're talking 2D games, you're not talking about sophisticated 3D games, and you're talking about categories of very simple games, puzzles, simple shooters, 80s, arcade-type classics, and I'll show one example you'll see. But despite those limitations, there's some pretty cool games that have already been made. Again, this is a potential platform that's an alternative to the traditional app stores, but as we all know, the app stores are still the primary place in discovery for games, so you should keep that in mind. So I'm going to dive a little more into instant games, again, because I know it. So, question, how many of you in the audience already know about Facebook's instant games platform by show of hands? Okay. And so they launched in November with 17 titles. There was no monetization, obviously as an alternative to the app stores. Fully embraced HTML5 2D Canvas. They could have chosen WebGL, which is a clear option for desktop mobile, not a very strong option, well, not a very good option for mobile. But here's the big pink elephant in the room, and it sounds silly because I have a big pink shirt on, but I have to go off of Adam's comment, and quite frankly, I didn't have it top of mind, but you saw his presentation where he showed 2012, desktop and Facebook was dominant until about 2014. So Facebook's been sitting out on the sidelines with the big mobile shift. So Facebook Instant Games is all about Facebook coming back and trying to be another option there. So they're really committed to it. They currently have 1.3 billion MAU. They have 70 games, and I know firsthand their beta is becoming more open. So to the extent there are developers out there, they're becoming more open to that. And they've also, I want to say about October, they started introducing monetization both on ads and the in-app purchaser side. So where does gambling fit in? Again, I'll go back to the point about the reservations about can you make good games with HTML5. Gambling, from a contextual standpoint, about 2013, all the gambling companies who were in real money gambling throughout the world had to accept that the app stores, as a general matter, were not going to let them put in gambling apps. So they much rather would have been building in native, but since they were banned, basically, I think at one point there were about 12 countries that Apple was, and Google has now started to consider it. But gambling embraced HTML5 technology on mobile browsers back in 2013, and there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of games that are out there. I will show one example. In fact, let's see. I think it's on the next slide. Yeah, so I'm just going to show you an example of a game. NetInt, as many of you know, some of you may or may not know, this is a pretty cool game. This is built in HTML5. I mean, you're going to see some really good artwork, solid graphics, Beautiful animations. You'll see you got some particle effects. And then, hold on, let's see. On this next one, you're going to see a segment of the same game where you'll see some 3D elements. It's, again, I said, HTML5 2D Canvas is limited 2D, but you can pull off some 3D elements with pre-rendered sprite animations. And you can see, I mean, you can, in HTML5 engine, there's a particle engine, got animations. Now I'm going to turn to a game from Facebook, Everwing, one of the more popular games. You see some particle effects in this game, and you will see the coins are also pre-rendered 3D coins. At the moment, this is one of the more popular games on Instant Games. So, you say, how could I get on Facebook Instant Games, and why would I use Unity? I still would say, just declaratively, Unity is the best tool out there to create games. Over 30% of mobile games are made in Unity. It's the world's #1 engine. Am I a little biased? I spent 7 years working in Unity, but I can tell you without any reservation, best engine to be using. Unity deploys over 25, there might even be 30, I can't recall the last time I actually looked, but ton of different platforms. Unity development community is over 1 million registered users. And quite frankly, if you want, to get on instant games and most messenger platforms is HTML5. Unity, but if you're going to build an HTML5, you need coders. If you're going to launch a new studio, I would not necessarily want to have a studio of everyone coding in HTML5. I can spin up a team of Unity developers way faster as a general matter, and also HTML5 is harder to code in. So I'll just make that statement for others to consider. Now, you did see I said shameless promotion somewhere along the way. There's one major drawback if you're going to use Unity. Unity does not deploy to a mobile browser on HTML5, meaning it does not have a plugin that permits you to run your game in a mobile browser. And that's frankly, I left Unity specifically to go build that tool. And so Unity Canvas is a tool that we have. We can talk about it after anyone who's interested, that will allow you to build your game in Unity and then export to HTML5, which means you get real money gambling, social casino. The social casino play is you can run on a desktop browser, and specifically older browsers. As Adam said, a lot of those players that are 45 to 50 that are social casino kind of the whales, they are not on Chrome. They're still on Internet Explorer 9. So anyway, now the main point, just in the last couple of minutes, that to consider. Again, this is just a conversation about consideration. You got 5 billion people on messenger platforms. That's actually a typo. I wouldn't say on instant games on messenger platform, but there are 1.3 billion on Facebook Messenger specifically. Instant games, I would say, is unquestionably a new and emerging gaming platform, but the question remains, are we witnessing a major shift? Will instant games shift the dominance of the App Store as premier gaming platforms? Will it evolve to become an additional complementary platform? Or will it fail to reach critical mass? So, and with that, I think I have a few minutes for questions.
And you mentioned running HTML5 games in older browsers. Isn't there a lack of support for HTML5 in IE9 and older browsers?
So your question is there support for HTML5 on older browsers? So you have to think in terms of desktop versus mobile, right? You can run HTML5 web canvas technology on modern browsers, but it will not run on older like Internet Explorer 9, 10, 11. On desktop browsers, WebGL, which is probably the most full-featured technology, because quite frankly it gets you 3D, but it's only going to run on the latest and newest mobile browser, mobile browser and phone combination. Does that answer the question?
Great presentation. Just a quick two-parter. If you had to throw a dart what would you define as critical mass success for instant games? What becomes the critical mass break even? Is there one? This is all theoretical, because if the temper to this is, if we are burdened with a 30% rate in the future, does that take away from instant games viability versus being in an app store environment?
That's a very interesting question, and I suspect someone at Facebook is really, really struggling with that. My guess is they're probably not going to introduce that 30% for some time, because for them, they got to your earlier point, they got to get critical mass. And if you got the same toll, if you will, the same percentage, why would I go to that platform? Well, other than there is a major attraction with the less friction. And your discovery, they get the discovery just through social, because I'm already there and my friend recommended it to me and I can play it right away. But what that critical mass is, I think it's anybody's best guess. I think there's another question there, or is it?
Do you have any examples of instant games that are built with this Unity to Canvas technology?
We do not at the moment, but we can talk about it separately if you want to talk about it afterwards.
Okay. Any other examples elsewhere? Or
that are built in our specific technology?
Yeah.
No, but there are real money games that are running live in Europe with our technology.
What are most of the instant games built on? Do you know what tech stack?
Well, they're being built in HTML5 hard coding. I mean, and not to go on about our technology, but our technology allows you to build it in Unity and then export to HTML5. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate your time.
All right.